You're all set.
All right. Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to the November 24th meeting of the Workforce Diversity and Inclusion Committee. We have a quorum here with Rachel Graham, Annie Corman, myself, Veronica Pillar in Chambers, and John Halachek, Lillian Isaacs, Nick Bennett, and Rob Brown on the Zoom. We also have our champion clerk, Jordan Cree, as usual, and guest Rachel Ostland, legislator-elect, joining us, so thank you. I guess I just named everybody, but does anyone want to do additional introductions? Not seeing strong responses from anybody. So let's just continue for now. Are there any changes to the agenda? Okay, seeing none. Chair's report. The one thing I have here, the end of year gathering, a few of us were talking recently and thought it would be a lovely idea to try to get together, this committee together in person for the final meeting of the year. And then, you know, we can see each other in person, which is always nice, and then have just a celebration with snacks, either right before or right after the meeting. And so consider this an invitation to you all to come, and also I'm interested in feedback on timing. That meeting, I have lost it, but it is scheduled, oh, here we go, for Thursday, December 18th from 3 to 5 p.m. Annie.
Just want to note that right afterwards, there's something for legislators at a separate location. So maybe not after.
What time is the other thing?
4:30 to 7:30.
Okay. And this meeting doesn't necessarily go until 5, although we do thankfully have 2 departments presenting their equity indicators in December, which is great, but it won't be a super short agenda. Does, I guess, folks on the committee, would you be able to come early that day? I know that doesn't always work for some people.
Veronica, by early, you mean at 3 or earlier than that?
Earlier than that, like 2 or 2:30.
I have a separate committee meeting at 3, so earlier is better for me, but I leave that to the rest of the committee as what's best for everyone.
I can come earlier.
Oh, we might get to see you in person, Nick.
I could also come earlier.
Okay, awesome. Rachel can also come earlier.
I think I should be able to manage.
I can too.
Oh, great.
Okay, well, all right, let's do earlier.
What time you want to do?
Do you want to say, like, come as early as 2 or whenever you can, and then start the official meeting part at 3 as scheduled?
Sure.
Okay, and thank you, Jordan, for getting that.
Yeah, and I think a couple of us might bring some snacks too.
Yes, yeah.
But just
If
come.
you want to, yeah, if you want to bring things, feel free, but seriously, no pressure. I think Annie and I will cover delicious something or other. All right. Hooray, yes. And whether you can come early or not, if you can come in person, please do. I know it's very useful to be able to do the Zoom option, and I'm like so glad we have it. But for this time, it would be cool to see each other. And our hope is that, picking one date to be like, this time everyone try to come in person. We can mostly all see each other in person and then, go back to fitting things in as fits folks' schedules as the default. All right, any other questions or comments on our December 18th? Rachel?
We might just want to send that in email also for the members that aren't here so they know.
Yes.
So between 2 and 3, say, in person? Yep. The legislature is available.
Perfect.
Yeah. Actually, Jordan, would you be able to email that to the members? Thank you so much. All right, anything else on this? Continuing on, we've got minutes approval from the October 29th meeting. Would anyone like to move the minutes?
I'll move.
Rachel moves. Is there a second?
I'll second.
John seconds. Minutes are on the floor. Does anyone have any changes, comments, whatnot? Seeing none, we will vote to approve them. We'll do a roll call vote as typical with the hybrid meeting. I'm going to start on Zoom and then go to in chambers and try to keep the same order. So voting to accept the minutes of October 29th, John.
Yes.
Nick.
Sorry, just came back. Yes.
Lillian.
Yes.
Robert.
Yes.
Rachel.
Yes.
Annie.
Yes.
And I'm a yes. That's unanimously approved. Yeah. All right. Moving on to the Strength and Diversity Award. We have, well, I guess before we move a resolution, we received several nominations for people to receive the 2025 Leslyn McBean Claiborne Strength and Diversity Award. I should say people or like organizations. The selection committee convened, had some good discussion, and chose 2 recipients that we'd like to award this to. If folks approve, 1 individual and 1 organization. And at this point, you'll see in your agenda packet, there's a resolution to name the recipients, but with a blank that we need to fill in their names, just because the packet had to go out prior to an opportunity to notify the potential recipients themselves. And we thought it would be weird if their name just showed up in a inexplicable meeting agenda somewhere. But Jordan, procedurally, should we put the resolution as it is on the floor and then move to amend to add the names? Okay.
You got it.
Fabulous. So I guess would anyone like to move?
I will move said resolutions.
Great, thank you. It's actually only 1. We're putting 2 names into it. But this is Doc ID 13727, resolution titled 2025 Leslyn McBean Claiborne Strength and Diversity Award. Rob moved. Is there a second?
Second.
Rachel seconds. Fabulous. It is on the table, and then I would like to move an amendment to fill in the blank with, hold on, I don't have the names in front of me and I don't want to mess it up unless you want.
Just as a point of order, can the chair move to do an amendment or?
Yes.
Is okay.
Oh,
I just want to make sure.
Would you like to?
No, I just want to make sure we're doing it to Roberta's rules or whatever they call it.
Veronica, would you like these?
They are in fact my rules. Good job, Annie.
Yes. Yeah.
And I think you just transgendered them too. Sorry.
I think Robert.
We are polygendered, as are all of our rules, Nick.
Thanks for catching that.
I think plot twist Robert is the author's last name. So, could be anybody. First name Henry. I have a little book on my desk. Okay, in any case, back to the resolution on the floor, I would like to move an amendment to replace the blank with Hashonda Johnson and South Hill Cider.
I want to ask if that's friendly to the,
As long as it's friendly to everybody, or you can put a second.
Do we get to learn about the nominations?
Yes.
once we
What
put
are
it,
those
we'll put it
two?
on the floor.
Okay, got it.
Yep, we'll put, before we vote.
Yeah.
As the mover, I accept it as friendly.
Is that friendly?
Yes.
Okay. Great. So the two recipients, I guess I can talk about them, but want to invite, no pressure, like Annie or John or Rob, if you want to talk about either of them.
So just for executive session purposes, you can talk about their professional achievements
Thank you. Yes.
In open session.
in open session.
No. Okay. In brief, now I'm afraid of messing up. I kind of want you to do it.
I don't have theirs right in front of me.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
But I think most of what was there was,
Yeah. But we probably shouldn't.
let's see. I think I could try and summarize.
Okay, go for it.
Sit closer if you need to
I trust your
elbow me for
boundaries
something.
better.
Let's see. So Hashonda works at Reach, and so I'll just say in general, with some of the, one of the reasons, well, the main reason I would say that the committee picked her, and we did not ask here about pronouns, so pardon me if I'm getting this wrong for Hashonda, but we thought about people that go above and beyond, not just their regular job, but this person going above and beyond, working with people, helping them in ways that maybe are outside of the normal scope of the work, and really making sure, as we know, to navigate the healthcare system and other systems, it can be very, very challenging for a lot of folks, and we thought this person really went above and beyond to help people. Does that kind of describe it?
Yeah, and in ways that are recognized by people who, like, third parties in addition to Hashonda's clients and coworkers.
Right.
And I will note that the nominator was such an outside party with an agency with which Reach does business.
Yes.
Right, so really seeing the effects out there in the community. Does anybody want to add anything else, if I could say that, or say anything about we want to go to the next one, South Hill Cider? Does anybody want to try and summarize that one? John?
I could try jumping in on that one.
Okay.
So the nomination very much described ways in which this enterprise received community feedback about creating an opening and welcoming space and followed through on that feedback in order to make workspace that others perceive as being welcoming and inclusive, including including being a host site for the Diversity Consortium of Tompkins County, and working to ensure diverse employment, in particular noted in the nomination, focusing on employment opportunities for persons with disabilities.
Great summary.
Yes, that sounds accurate. Annie?
Yeah, I just wanted to add, since we're talking about the two different entities, well, a person and an entity that was nominated this year, one of the things that the committee realized was that it might be challenging for a person to maybe go up against an organization or a business, some type of organization. And so we decided that we would pick, since we had outstanding candidates we thought in both, is that we would pick one from each category. And that maybe going forward, when this committee for this award reforms in the next year, that could be something that they might take up, is that would we have two categories going forward? Not that we have to award one in each category, but would we kind of look at the metrics separately? So I don't know if anybody wanted to add on to that, but that was a little bit what I remember of our discussion.
Yeah, thank you, Annie. And I was going to say briefly, going into the selection process, I think the small group, I don't remember if we was a subcommittee or it wasn't officially anything, I don't know. Subcommittees and working groups and stuff.
Group, I think.
Was it a working group?
Yeah.
Okay.
Is that, yeah, Jordan
Yeah.
says it was a working group.
We discussed the possibility of awarding this to more than one recipient and talked about how likely keeping it to one as a matter of course when it's an annual award was probably what we were going to be looking at, but this hasn't been awarded in the last couple years, so up to two would be fine. But then we also knew this is the first time doing the process the way we're doing it now and figured we were going to learn things and maybe adjust for the future as needed, and this was one of them. The difficulty of comparing individuals and organizations. And I know I feel lucky to have the opportunity to honor an individual and an organization who fully have been doing work for a long time that fits the criteria of the Strength and Diversity Award. Nick.
Yeah, I feel really cool about I wasn't on the selection committee or I know you just said what it was, but so I wanted to put that out there, but I feel great about just the diversity in these two winners. Like they do very, very different things for the community. Hashonda being a community outreach individual, and then South Hill Cider, obviously, right, being an entity or an enterprise that is serving the community in another way. And I'm curious to know if the selection committee working group noticed like any kinds of trends in the oh my gosh, I'm sorry, language is failing me. Trends in the applications, the candidates. And because from what it looks like this is fantastic. These are really fantastically distinct. And I wonder if there were any trends.
I'll go to John anyway, because he was on the selection committee, but you can say whatever you were going to say and we can come back. You are muted, though.
I am. Sorry about that. The only thing I wanted to add when I raised my hand is, for the sake of transparency, there were a number of candidates that were put forth. I want to say 11 or 13. Does that sound about right? That we reviewed?
There were eight or nine.
And that could be very well. The number is fuzzy. The point being that these were not the only two submissions that came to the work group. There were multiple candidates and discussion on each. Very robust, good discussion on the candidates. And ultimately, these were the two that rose to the top. As far as trends, I think very generally, it was, for the most part, the nominations centered around diversity or equity and inclusion with respect to the work that either in the one case the entity did, or in the other nominations, what the individual had done. I don't know that I could really say there was more specificity to that, but maybe some of the other members on the committee or on the work group can expand on that.
Annie.
Yeah, I would say, I'm not sure if there's trends yet in addition to what John stated, but I think this would be something, again, for the working group that takes on this task next year to come back and look at, because some of the things I know we talked about during the selection process of, what the application, is that driving some of these particular applicants. So I think that's something to take a look at, because of course we want to be, well, that's my assumption, that maybe we want to be as expansive as possible, maybe not, I'm not sure, but to take these to see, and if we felt it was either limiting or it was guiding people in a certain way. I will say that there were some applicants or some nominations that weren't filled out, didn't have as much information as we would have liked. And so we decided at that point, we weren't going to go out and solicit information because this is the process. But I think that's another thing for that group to look at next year, that, what are the parameters? Would we have something that, could you go ask one question or ask somebody, within a certain time frame, we finish here, and then if there are, are you would we have a time frame where you maybe do one outreach and say, hey, would you like to fill in more? Because, was it difficult to fill out online or something? But if they had a paper copy, for instance, but want to make sure that we're giving people the opportunity to get the information to us and not limit the people who could be eligible because it was a challenging process.
And regardless of technical things, I will say, corny as it is, the trend that I saw in our nominees was that they were inspirational.
Right.
Yes, corny, but true.
And a big thanks to also who was on the working group, Leslie McBean Claiborne. So thanks to her for helping us with this too.
Yes, big thanks to Leslyn for doing the work of this. As also technically the only person who was fully ineligible for this award due to having already received it. All right, any other questions, discussion about the award? We do have the resolution on the table still. Annie.
Do we want to talk about the process of what happens to this after this, or do you want to go ahead and vote on it and then talk about the process of the award going through another committee and all that?
Let's talk about the process now. Do you want to explain?
Sure. So this, after we vote on this today, as any resolutions that we have for this committee, they go through BCP, the Budget, Capital, and Personnel Committee, which meets, I think, the 21st of December, if I remember correctly. No?
11th, I think.
The 11th. Oh, that's
Yeah.
another committee I might be thinking of. Okay, so they meet the 11th?
Yes, it was rescheduled due to the holiday, so
Can you
they-
use your mic?
it was
Jordan's helping
rescheduled
us.
due to the holiday.
Okay,
So all committee meetings, all of the resolutions have to be passed before December 16th, which is the last legislature meeting of the year.
oh, right, because the 21st is after the last legislature meeting of the year.
Not that it's important though, but I think December 11th, Thursday, second Thursday is the normal BCP time anyway.
Okay. So forget the dates I just said. So the 11th, and then it goes to the full legislature on the
16th.
16th. Okay. And so then at that night, we're asking if folks can come to that, you know, to have the awards that night at the beginning of the legislature meeting. And so I believe we were going to ask if, you know, if anybody here from WDIC wanted to come, we'd welcome, you know, because this is part of this committee. So we're hoping folks would like to stop in.
And that's 5:30 on the 16th, correct?
Right.
Yes. And we anticipate being able to, the full legislature will have to, you know, assuming we pass this resolution now and it passes through Budget, Capital, and Personnel, the full legislature will have to vote on it. We anticipate being able to move that up way to the start of the meeting, even though you will notice resolutions don't usually come that early, but as this one is associated with awarding something to a recipient, we don't want to make them wait arbitrary numbers of hours.
And due to the deadline, it will be pending committee action.
That's how it'll be listed on the,
Yes.
That makes sense.
okay, 11th and 16th.
Right, because the full legislature agenda will be printed and posted prior to the BCP committee meeting happening. But that is okay, happens all the time. Are we ready to vote on this resolution? Seeing no objection, we'll do a roll call again, starting on Zoom. John?
Yes.
Nick?
Yes.
Lillian?
Yes.
Rob?
Yes.
Rachel?
Yes.
Annie?
Yes.
And I'm a yes, that passes unanimously. Thank you all. Okay, carrying on, I have lost track of my agenda somehow, but I think next we're on to reports and updates. Thank you. So first, Chief Equity and Diversity Officer, that position is vacant at the moment, so we don't have anyone to give that update. But I will give an update, a little update on the search for a new one. The hiring panel, a couple dozen more applications were received for this position, which is great. The posting date, like the deadline already happened. I think HR has compiled and organized the applications. The search or the hiring panel had its first meeting today, and the process will continue going. It is most likely that no one will be selected until into the new year, just due to holidays and needing to schedule in-person interviews ultimately. But, you know, so we're looking at hopefully January or February for hiring, assuming this goes well. Rachel.
Could we just plug what we discussed at the last WDIC meeting about the resolution for public hearing for adding the CETO position to the charter. That resolution passed, so there will be a public hearing on December 2nd at 5:30 in chambers. I think it is possible that it won't pass, the actual resolution to add it to the charter.
To be clear, the resolution to set a public hearing passed.
Right, that, right.
Yeah.
Thank you. So if you have strong feelings about it, please come and speak at the public hearing on the 2nd.
I'll just, sorry if I could just chime in, or in addition, or instead, you could email, there's a form online to email all the legislators. That's a way that you could also contact us. But coming in person really does seem to make a bigger difference.
And I think at that meeting, they will be voting on whether or not to pass the resolution to add it to the charter.
Yes, correct. The public hearing, and there is a mandated public hearing because this would be a local law, technically, since that is necessary to change the charter. So the public hearing will be at the beginning, 5:30 p.m. of the December 2nd legislature meeting, and then somewhere on the agenda in the normal course of things will be the resolution itself to adopt that local law, adding the position to the charter. And so legislators will be voting on that after having heard all the comments at the public hearing. And I think Rachel is correct, or my intuition matches that may or may not pass, but that it is helpful to hear from
As for the form online, Annie, members can email legislature@tompkins-co.org to reach legislators.
Yes, that's true.
But what would you, Tompkins, but that, is it legislative?
It all goes to the same place, right?
The form was taken down. So it states, please email legislature@tompkins-co.org.
Okay, so that's changed. I have a secret way of mailing or emailing all legislators, so I
You absolutely do.
Yeah.
Can I add one more
Yes.
thing to that discussion? Thanks for bringing this up, Rachel. So where this, the proposed local law regarding the Chief Equity and Diversity Officer was discussed, it was our last legislature meeting. That was, if you want to look at the discussion, I can't remember how far into the legislature meeting it was, but so you could look on our YouTube channel, the Tompkins County YouTube channel, and it was the November 18th legislature meeting to see what were some of the thoughts on it. So if that might help form your comments.
I would also recommend the Government Operations Committee meeting, which was, when was that? That was November 18th? Hang on.
It would have been early in November.
Oh, right, because
And-
it's the,
Actually, to my
6th.
memory,
I have down it's the
there was a
6th.
big discussion at the Government Operations Committee. There was another whole discussion at the Budget, Capital, and Personnel Committee. I don't
Was
think
it?
we really discussed it in depth at the legislature.
No.
Actually, on November 18th.
Didn't. Oh, maybe it's GO,
Because,
I'm remembering
yeah,
then.
because,
the 18th, it was just passing the public hearing
Right.
resolution.
Oh, right. It was definitely, there was a discussion, a big discussion, I would say.
I think the
at
biggest
GO on the
discussion
6th.
was GO on the 6th,
Right.
and I know that discussion happens at minute mark 35:45, I think.
Rachel, are you coming for my job?
No, promise.
So that's Government Operations Committee meeting, Thursday, November 6th might be a better place to go look if you want to hear some of the discussion from some legislators. Right,
yes.
thank you.
Just ignore this comment if you don't care about the technical procedure part of it all. But the technical procedure part of it all is that we had 2 resolutions needing to pass through committee and then eventually got voted on by the full legislature. One just sets the date for the public hearing that Rachel mentioned, and one actually adopts the local law. So both resolutions got discussed and voted on at the committees that needed to review them. But at the full legislature, the public hearing resolution got discussed minimally and voted on. But then at the full legislature, since there a vote for a local law does the adopting of it, that waits until after the public hearing actually happens, which is why the committees had some robust discussion on this, but the full legislature hasn't yet. Anything else on the Chief Equity and Diversity Officer position? Yeah. I guess I will add, in terms of giving comments to the legislature, it is, like, when in doubt, it is always helpful to speak up, either by email, commenting in person, what have you, even if, like, you know, even if, say, you support this change and you know that Annie and I know this, it's not, it lands completely different for our colleagues if you communicate directly than if we swear up, down, and sideways that we have people on WDIC who think blah, blah, blah. Annie, Annie? Yeah.
Yeah, I had 2 things. One, I realized it's not on our agenda about public comment. So we didn't ask. So I don't know if you want. Got skipped.
That
or don't we?
We don't do public
usually
comment because of reasons that I cannot remember off the top of my head, but that the clerk of the legislature was pretty firm about last time we discussed. We could discuss this in the future, I think.
Okay. And then the other thing was, do we want to mention the Human Rights Office? Is it a director? I might not get the title correctly.
Director.
That position is open, and we are accepting applications. I can't remember the exact date, but that, I believe that's still open for, I think, through sometime in December.
That's my understanding.
Yes, thank you. Anything else on this? Seeing none, moving on to the Team Justice, Equity, Diversity, and Inclusion JEDI update. Rachel.
Yes, so we last met last Friday, November 21st. We discussed we had like a debrief and shared takeaways from the GARE local meeting. I gave them an update on what we just discussed about the public hearing, and the resolution to adopt the CETO position to the charter. What else? We talked about the CETO position being posted, and that there is a team reviewing those applicants. And I announced that I chose a co-chair because since Dr. Clark left, he and I were co-chairs of JEDI. Since he left, I haven't had a co-chair. So I was really kind of just leaning on Charlene. We'd touch base between meetings to go over what the agenda was going to be for the following month. And since she left, Kevin from Highway has been an active participant and has come to me with ideas that he has, so I asked him if he would mind, so he'll be my co-chair.
Great.
And then we talked about some possible projects, and one of the things Kevin noted in watching the discussion from the last Government Operations Committee meeting is that it might be important to create a document that has a history of the DEI work that's been done in Tompkins County, and also a description of each of the components to that work. So like WDIC, JEDI, the CETO, the Director of Human Rights, And I pointed out that a lot of that information is in the institutionalizing equity report. So I shared the link to that with everyone on JEDI again. And we talked about how we might use that as a starting point and maybe expand on what's already in that report. And then it made me think about the onboarding that Katrina's doing for new legislators, and I wanted to just make a plug that the institutionalizing equity report and the strategic operations plan be part of that if they're not already. I would hope they are, but they should be if they're not. And that is my JEDI update.
Thank you. Questions or comments for Rachel? Annie.
This, I don't know where this question fits. It might not be for you, but it's just something that I've been thinking about as we've had, is it 2 departments come in and do their equity indicators? And so maybe it's, and we don't have anybody reporting today their equity indicators, so maybe it's a apropos time to ask this question, because I don't want to pick on any department at all. But just thinking, because the new Chief Equity and Diversity Officer is going to be in, starting maybe in January, February, and I won't be here, so I'm going to just leave this question and this thought for y'all, is that the indicators, can we look at something from the community for those indicators in the future? After maybe we go through this first round, and maybe some of them are, or maybe we can get feedback from, people that are, departments that are reporting, how much of these indicators are they doing because, are they getting them from their staff? Are they getting them from the public, or a combination? Of course, if staff is thinking of these things, of course, it probably has to do with maybe some feedback they've gotten from the public. But just wondering if there's a way to more either know that we're getting information from the public, or to increase that interaction and feedback. Because I know, like, going to the GARE conference, that was a thing that, we could always be improving on as an organization, is getting more feedback from the community to make sure our services are, having more of a lens of DEI.
Rob.
I'm just going to be a little bit of a noisy agitator here, just as far as the equity and diversity history piece of it, in that, for example, the material in the institutionalizing equity report is very importantly procedural, describing efforts within this century on really building out the way that we work and how our government addresses these issues in a systemic and idealized, institutionalized way. But I will say, as far as the DEI history of this county, we have a fierce history going back well before that regarding human rights and civil rights, out of which this work has arisen. So I just am again saying on record that we should never forget the work that has come before and the ways in which we have made strides, either by starting or joining movements. We should never be shy of that. And that also ties into why I'm so firmly supportive of adding the CETO role to the county charter, just the same way as we passed Local Law C, just the same way as we have made many other important strides. I'm here as a procedural functionary in many respects, as are many of us. But let's not forget that this comes out of a long history of this county being on the forefront that I certainly refuse to lose sight of or let fade away.
Thank you. I would like to say, and I guess, Annie, this is getting away from your question or point, but back to Rachel's report. I love the idea of a document with history of DEI work in the county. There is, just so everyone knows, there is a brief summary of DEI work in the county on the county's website. Of course, it's summarizing a lot more information, but if you go to www.tompkinscounty.ny.gov/about/equity-and-diversity, you reach our equity and diversity page, which includes an overview of like a timeline of establishing elements of the DEI work here from 2006 up through last year. There's a link to the Institutionalizing Equity Report and various other resources. And again, that's on the county website. You can also go to it from the county homepage if you click on diversity statement at the bottom, or if you go to the county homepage and click on about at the top and then equity and diversity, and you get to this page that you can now see on the screen if you are looking at said screen. Thank you, Jordan. Rachel.
Just to get back to Annie's question and note for us, just thinking of the two that have reported so far, which was my department, county clerk, and COFA, County Office for the Aging, both included, like, we couldn't have come to our equity indicators without input from the public. So I'm hoping there will at least be components of the other departments that are reporting that will be, because I know there was a focus on access for a lot of departments. So I think that will be a trend. I don't know what all the other departments' indicators are, but I would like to think that would be a trend.
Can I ask a clarifying question? Are you saying that both y'all and COFA couldn't have come to deciding what your equity indicator was going to be without public input?
No, like the data that we're collecting for my department specifically is from surveys that the public are answering. And it sounded from listening to COFA's that that's what
theirs is also.
So, yeah.
Okay, thank you. Annie. Annie, can I also ask, I gotta be honest, I didn't fully understand your question/point about public input. Could you summarize?
Sure. And so this is similar to what I was going to say anyway, that attending the GARE conference, it just struck me and reminded me that we always want to make sure we're getting enough feedback from the public in whatever we do, whether it's an application for an award or an application to be an employee, or, in all the services that we do. And certainly, I don't mean to be remiss about, how we treat our employees. So that's just been in my been in my head lately, and I just wanted to say that. And it sounds, and I couldn't remember all the details, so that's exactly the type of thing that Rachel was saying. I just want to make sure that we notice that that's there, that we're getting public input, it sounds like, and that's great. And so I just wanted to put that out there and never forget that, just because I think there's room, and if we're already doing it there, maybe that can be models for maybe places, departments maybe that aren't doing that. Certainly the clerk's office and COFA are very public-facing departments, and so I don't know what the other ones will be like. I'll try and stay tuned to see what those are like. When you have a department that's not as public-facing, do we need to do as much? I don't know, or maybe we don't get that information because we're not as public-facing. Because if I would, again, I don't work in those departments, but possibly it's easier to get that because you're engaged with the public all the time, and so maybe it's easier to get that information from them. Does that make sense?
Yes, that helps. Thank you. I don't know where we are right now, still in the Team Jedi report.
Annie, if I may, there are 2 vacancies for undesignated seats on WDIC if you'd like to continue to follow along.
Good point, Jordan.
Thank you for that information, Jordan.
Yeah. Thank you, Jordan. That was a perfect comment.
Plug.
Yeah.
Good plug.
Yeah, we would certainly love to keep you.
Okay, next on the
And,
agenda.
yeah, though, and also in general, there are 2 vacancies still on WDIC. So if anyone else is out listening here being like, I have something to say, you could come say it to us on camera.
And I make a non-binding motion. Andy, you really should do it. Anyway.
We're having trouble with the audio, Rob.
I was going to ask Rachel, do you, I know you wouldn't be like come prepared to answer this, but do you have insight from Team Jedi on any impacts or lack thereof, I suppose, that the Chief Equity and Diversity Officer position, or like, you know, the people who have been in that role have had on staff in this organization, that legislators might not be positioned to be very aware of?
I mean, we did talk about missing Charlene. She definitely made a huge impact on all of us on Team Jedi. Yeah, sorry. Yeah, so we all discussed missing Charlene and her input and what she brings to us to discuss. And we were all sad when Deanna left, and you know, we worked closely with the CETO, so we were sad both times. But we can't keep them forever, so you know, we just pivot and do what we can and just try to move the work in whatever ways we can. And hopefully the exit interview that we did with Charlene will be able to share with the incoming CETO, and hopefully that will be helpful in whatever files were left behind for them, and they have lots of support, so whoever it is will be happy to work with them.
Cool, thank you. Anything else in the broad realm of Team Jedi?
You know, I guess I just would mention, it was brought up as we were discussing both our takeaways from the GARE conference and this resolution to add the CETO position to the charter, that that idea sort of came out of information that we learned at the GARE conference about CORE, which now I can't remember exactly what that stands for in New York City. What is it? Community CORE NYC. Sorry, I just want to make sure I get this. Oh, I can't even find it now. Oh, there we go. Commission on Race and Equity, New York City Commission on Race and on Racial Equity. So the director of CORE was at GARE and spoke about how adding this commission was added to the charter in New York City. And it's, you know, a way, accountability is the word that's coming to my mind, but it's more than that because it's also collaborating with government. But also making sure that government is reaching the community members that it needs to be reaching, and that it's serving them in the way that it needs to be serving them. And so that was really impactful to some at the GARE conference, and obviously it was to Amanda, since Amanda took that and came and did that here.
No problem. Keep going. You can keep going.
Okay. Sorry, we're having some weird tech stuff happening here, but that was my point, I guess. I don't have more on that.
Okay, thank you. Anything else in this rich and fairly wide-ranging discussion?
Perfect, thank you. Bye. We're still good.
We're still good. The lights did flash once, so I don't know if we should take that as an omen of anything.
I'll just say it's occurring up here right next to the airport as well. So that must be a larger power issue.
Wow.
Fun. I hope there's not a storm because I biked here. Anyhow, let us move on to discussion items. We have no discussion items, although if you'll let me, I wanted to just name a couple topics for potential future discussion at this committee. No one's yelling at me, so I'll carry on. Both of these are things that are important issues relevant to workforce diversity and inclusion, but also somewhat more or less beyond the bounds of this county organization. Both are very relevant issues in the state and society right now, and both are topics that this committee, before I was ever on it, I joined in 2022, discussed, I think, at length and took positions on back some years ago, back when Leslie McBean-Claiborne was leading it. And those two are living wage, paying living wages for things, and solitary confinement in prisons, and in particular, the Halt Solitary Act. So I guess I should try to talk about one thing at a time. The living wage, and people are probably familiar with the concept. It's an hourly rate calculated by the costs of various things that people need to live, like housing, healthcare, transportation, food, whatnot, and comes up with a number of dollars per hour that someone would need to make in order to live, essentially, in order to live on the wages that they make in the community where they make them. And we have the Tompkins County Workers Center here has named a living wage figure, either calculating it with some either research partners or bank partners. It's changed over time. But they name every year what the living wage is, and then they certify, they have a certification program, which is just an optional thing for employers to certify as living wage employers if they pay all their employees at least a living wage. And I think there's details and exceptions that I don't know off the top of my head for things like youth internships and whatnot. But the program is robust, been going for many years. Tompkins County has been a certified living wage employer for a long time.
Since 2006, the start of the program.
Thank you, since 2006. And this year, the living wage, the new calculated living wage jumped up from $18 in some sense to $24 in some sense. And the employers have by the end of the calendar year to recertify as a living wage employer. And the director of the Workers Center did, just in informal conversation with me the other day, say that a lot of employers are not going to be recertifying. And to the best of my knowledge, that Tompkins County is one of those. We are not currently paying everyone at least the new living wage rate, and are not poised to change that by the end of the calendar year. So that's an issue out in the world that we might want to discuss or look into. And then the other thing, solitary confinement in New York State, And thanks to Leslin for putting this on my radar, because I did not know that this was something that WDIC had ever discussed. But there is, the legislature passed a resolution in, the county legislature passed a resolution in 2015 and again in 2019, essentially supporting the HALT Solitary Confinement Act, HALT being an acronym for Humane Alternatives to Long-Term Isolated Confinement. Okay, a little contrived acronym, but that's okay. And this was state level legislation to limit how much people can be in solitary confinement, which amounts to torture by many people's definitions. So, and those resolutions, I think, also originated in WDIC, or at least the first one, the bringing this topic to the county legislature as something to opine on. The HALT Act itself was passed and signed in 2021 and then enacted. So that would be great and hunky-dory.
Pardon me, was that New York State?
New York State.
Adopted it? Okay.
Yeah, New York State. So the 2015 and 2019 resolutions here at the county were, they were the supporting this legislation and urging our state government to adopt it. In 2021, the state government actually did adopt it. And I don't know the details of the implementation timeline, but this year there's been increasing calls for rollbacks of it. This was part of the focus of the state correction workers wildcat strikes earlier in this year, right? Yeah, time is hard. And so basically the provisions of that act are not a done deal. And so it's an issue on the table again. And so that could potentially be something for us to discuss in the future. And I will say we are joined by Shauna Black. Thank you.
Thank you. Sorry I'm late.
Yeah, no worries. We are on discussion items and I'm bringing up two things that are not on the agenda for potential future discussion. Rob.
I endorse both items for future discussion, and in particular on the last. I mentioned a couple of months ago during our meeting that on the LGBTQAI law enforcement subcommittee of WDIC, we had what I at least experienced as a very constructive dialogue about DEI and human rights within the law enforcement sphere with our sheriff's department. And I would love to have conversations about solitary confinement and related issues. And I would also love to issue an invitation for the sheriff's office to join us at WDIC for such conversations.
I love that idea. Thank you. Annie.
Yeah, and just to add on to that, regarding, the issues that we talked with the sheriff's department before regarding LGBTQ issues, and so maybe that was, gosh, I don't know how many years ago, that maybe we can kind of get an update, or talk about, if that's a discussion item for this committee, an update and maybe the history of what those conversations were and what the sheriff's department has done. Because just one brief note that while we were looking at some issues, at the same time, the sheriff's office was already working on that stuff. So then we converged to, work together on that. So that would be nice to have an update. So yeah, it must have been 5-6 years ago, 7 years ago.
Yeah, that's
as far as other potential collaborations with that office, I'd love to discuss immigration rights, which I know that our current sheriff has worked on pretty firmly.
Exactly, yeah.
Yeah, I love that idea. And yeah, I would love to hear a report back or overview of what that LGBTQIA law enforcement working group did. Because I've heard about it informally, but just informally, and it was before I got here, and I know lots of people are probably just hearing about it for the first time in this very moment.
Yeah, they changed some of their policies, what the policies are, how yeah, just a whole update on that.
I think they also came up with policy on how to deal with people that are trans that are staying at our jail as well, which made a lot of sense and continues to make a lot of sense.
Yeah, that was part of that.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, awesome, and that's important.
And it's good for us to think about too, as we're looking at either a new jail or jail renovations or adding on to the jail. You know, it's, to me, it was really important to have those conversations. Also, years back too, around that time frame, we went and viewed other jails to see how they housed people, and that was to see the different ways that they did that, and that really was an eye opener for me. You can talk about it all you want, but to go see it was really impactful and helpful.
Yeah, awesome. Any other thoughts on, I guess, these potential discussion topics for the future? John?
Yes, so while you were talking about the living wage amount, so the number that has been kicked around is $24.82 an hour for 2025. And I, while you were discussing that, I just went online and I'm looking actually at some data that was calculated by MIT regarding the living wage calculation for our county. And I think it's very important as we talk about what that living wage figure is. In their data set, that 2482 generally represents one adult with 0 children as the living wage. When you start looking at a single adult with 1, 2, 3 children, or 2 adults with 0 through 3 children, that figure jumps exponentially. So I think it's very important in anyone engaging in a discussion about living wage that it is quite clear that that figure does not represent everyone in this community. It is only representative of a single adult without any children, and that is what is determined to be the living wage.
Yes, thank you for that clarification. Rob and then Shauna.
Yes, thank you very much for that clarification, John. And of course, it's a big conversation with regard to living wage for things about wage policy or wage certification or setting pay bands within an organization. It is not practical, nor really decent, and in some cases not legal to set wage policy on the basis of the range of various households and their composition and life circumstances. However, when we're talking about it, not just from a policy point of view, but looking at reasonable and dignified cost of living for ourselves and for our neighbors, we do need to consider that, and we need to consider how the living wage, which is driven by objective measurable costs of living, those costs of living also have a very close relationship to public policy. The biggest driver in the year-over-year jump here in Tompkins was rents, and the ways in which policy relates to the landlords highly influence rents. The ways in which public policy are structured on a local, state, national level highly influence the cost of childcare. So it's not just a wage figure. It's not how much an individual person might be paid. It is, within our context, a question of how public policy may be able to limit, slow, or otherwise influence and change the costs of living that are pushing up how much it costs to live here.
Yes, thank you. Shauna.
Thank you. I think one of the other conversations that we've also discussed whenever looking at this RFP, and Veronica and I had a conversation, I think last Friday, with I think the agency that we're going with for the RFP, was looking at benefits as well. Because if you're making $22 and you have stellar benefits.
Sorry, and can you elaborate what RFP you're talking about?
Oh, the living wage study, the RFP.
Yeah, well, that's a minimum wage study, right?
Minimum wage study, yeah. So I think if you're making $22 and you have stellar benefits, that's a little bit different than making $22 and not having any benefits at all. And so one of the things that they are going to look into as they do the study is actually looking at the different benefit packages and adding some value to that for those that are offering a certain hour per rate. The other thing that we asked for them to look into and do an evaluation on is in 2027, very few people are probably going to be eligible for Medicaid. And so we're going to see such a gap and such an increase of people that are actually either underinsured or have no insurance at all. And we're going to have to somehow find a way to make sure that whenever people get sick or need to go to the hospital for care, that they're covered. So my assumption is that either we're going to see an increase in private health insurance to cover for those that are not able to pay for insurance, or we're going to see just somewhat of a medical crisis because these hospitals aren't going to be able to operate if they're not getting paid. And so I think those were two different factors that we had asked for them to look into, as well as how it's going to affect small business and our nonprofits, specifically in healthcare, that receive reimbursement for Medicaid services.
Yeah, thank you. That's also important influence and context. Any other comments, thoughts right now? John.
Yes. So one, just an observation, and then another is a question for the entire committee. I just wanted to add in that I was pleased to see that the Supreme Court denied certification to hear the Kentucky case as to whether or not a local official could, based on principle, deny marriage to anyone within the LGBTQ community. I was very thankful that they didn't have the appetite to hear that case. I don't think that particular case is 100% related to Oberfell. I'm sure there will be other cases that come along that try and challenge that more directly. But it seems that at least in the framework that did come to the court, they don't have the appetite to hear that right now. So that was a good thing. The second is a general question for this group. And basically it's about procedure. So I'll give you an example. If there is a operational condition that exists within the county that some individuals feel is not aligned with the principles of DEI, who should that be brought to? Should it be brought to this committee, or because it is a operational decision, should it be handled elsewhere?
I am going to hope that one of the other legislators sitting here has more insight into this than I do, but I also think it it would depend some on who was the decision maker for who made this operational decision or approved if it's a policy leading to it or whatnot.
I can expand on this, but I would prefer to do that in an executive session and not in an open forum.
Totally. Annie?
Just off the top of my head, just thinking, going through the department, I guess it might depend on what type of issue. I know, it might be something we need to talk about offline, because it could depend on I think it will depend on what type of issue, whether it would go up through administration, which the Chief Equity and Diversity Officer is a part of our administration. Is it through human resources? Is it through, anyway, I think it depends. So maybe we want to, I don't know if we want to have an executive session or talk offline.
This can wait until next month. It is of no urgency, but we can discuss perhaps early on while we're meeting to have our little get together next month. We could talk about that.
Sure, that sounds good. And I guess I will say the chief equity and diversity officer themselves, I think, would be a good person to bring this to. This is not useful in this very moment, lacking one, but generally I think that is part of their role. Shauna?
Yeah, I agree. The CEDO would probably be the perfect person. But I think in the meantime, John, if you want to write an email to Veronica and/or Annie and explain your concern, we can kind of figure out how to go from there.
Sure.
And address that.
Thank you.
And just to say, if you want it to be confidential, just put confidential at the top of your email.
Sure.
Actually, accommodation I'm now requesting, could you put confidential in the subject line? Because that is where I notice it.
I can do that.
I asked this to our county attorney earlier today, and he was happy to oblige. All right. Let's say we're sliding into committee members' reports on the agenda. Do any committee members have any sort of a report? Announcement thing to share?
Yeah, I think the only thing that I have is that we are going to have the public hearing, maybe I missed this, for the CEDO position. And if we just make sure that our community knows about this, because I think this is something that is very important, but I can imagine it will get lost with the holidays and maybe not get out to our community. And I would love to see this room packed with people that think it's important and that we should add this to our charter. So.
Okay. Yes, thank you. And Rachel brought this up earlier, but also I was gonna remind at the end. And that public hearing is not tomorrow, tomorrow's Tuesday. It is the following Tuesday, December 2nd at 5:30 p.m. here in these chambers. Anything else?
So the public hearing is December 2nd, and we're voting on it that night, right? Or the next meeting, because I'm confused.
I believe it's the public hearing. I believe it's the public hearing, and then later on in the meeting,
December 2nd.
there will be the
Okay.
vote. Yep.
Thanks, because I've mixed up the dates before, and I'm still trying to get them straight. Thank you.
All right, if nothing else, then we will hopefully see at least some of you on Tuesday, December 2nd at 5:30 p.m. if you'd like to opine on adding the CEDO to the charter. We will hopefully see some, if not all of you, on Tuesday, December 16th at 5:30 p.m. if you'd like to be present for the awarding of the Leslie McBean Claiborne Strength and Diversity Award. And we will hopefully see all of you on Thursday, December 18th at 2 p.m. for party gathering time, and then 3 p.m. for WDIC meeting as usual, last one of this year. Last one with Annie, unless she makes a different decision. And With that, can I have a motion to adjourn? Rachel moves. Nick seconds. All in favor? No roll call vote. Seeing
Aye.
hands, we are adjourned. Thank you.
Happy Thanksgiving, everybody.
Happy Thanksgiving.